Hey everybody, it's low carb and keto friendly nutritionist Amy Berger from 2itnutrition.com, bringing you what you and I love best, I hope, keto without the crazy. Before I get into today's topic, as usual, there will be some nifty, handy dandy links below. The first is to a free preview of my very, very soon to be released ebook, The Stall Slayer, about breaking fat loss stalls on low carb or ketogenic diets. I think we're in the home stretch. It's like any day now. Hopefully within the next week or two, I think we're going to be done and that will be available for purchase. But in the meantime, you can download that free preview. It will download as soon as you click the link. So be sure you do want to download it. It is free. That link will be there. There'll also be a link to the Adapt Your Life event, which is Saturday, March 14th in Winchester, Virginia, about 90 minutes west of the DC area. And I'll be there, Eric Westman will be there, and some local keto and low carb friendly medical doctors and nutritionists in the Winchester area. So that'll be great. Saturday, March 14th. There will also be a link to the tab on my website that's just the general Meet Me in Person. So you can see the other events I'll be speaking at this year. And let's see, anything else to tell you? Not right now. Let's get down to business. Today's topic is keto in college. This is a viewer request. I do take viewer requests. Now, yes, I know I look ridiculous, but there's a method to the madness. Give me a second. I've heard from several of you. I have a growing list of topics to get to, and I'm not going to get to them in any particular order. I know many of you are waiting. I've had requests to do keto for, seasoned women of a certain age, keto for like ADHD, keto for heart failure. Somebody asked me to do a video on berberine, a supplement that's good for blood sugar. I'm going to get to it all. I'm just not sure how quickly because I have like a bunch of ideas of my own that I want to get to. But today, keto in college. It might be a little bit blurry, but I went to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, one of my all-time favorite cities. After I graduated from CMU, I stayed in Pittsburgh for a couple of years and I worked in the US Steel building, the USX building, which is now called something else, but it's the tallest building in the city, that big black building. If you happen to know the Pittsburgh skyline, I worked on the 47th floor. What a great view that was. But Carnegie Mellon, and I say Carnegie because if you live in Pittsburgh or you are familiar with the Andrew Carnegie family, the Carnegie clan, that's how you say it. It's Carnegie. It's not Carnegie. Like where I grew up, I was born and raised in New York. We have Carnegie Hall. We probably should call it Carnegie Hall. Anyway, same Carnegie. I went to CMU for undergrad. I got my nutrition degree somewhere else, but my creative writing degree is from Carnegie Mellon, which is one of the world's most famous engineering schools. So, why wouldn't I major in creative writing there? That's a whole other story. My boyfriend works at Duke, so we got the Duke hat going on. He bought this for me at a basketball game, and it didn't even wreck my hair that much. Nice. So, now I live in North Carolina, right? I actually live in Durham, and Duke is like in Durham. So, what is the deal with doing keto in college? Where should I start? I'm going to give you a little background information on how I started learning about keto because I was in college when I first discovered the ketogenic diet, what it was and how and why it worked. And so at that time, I was a little bit chubby. I've always been on the chubby side. My parents owned an ice cream and candy store. I think I've mentioned that on one or two past videos. So I was quite literally a kid in a candy store. My favorite thing, my favorite activity was to sit on a couch with a book. It still is. So you combine those two things and guess what? You're going to have a chubby kid, and I was a chubby kid. I was a chubby young adult despite the marathon running that I've mentioned. Anyway, I was chubby, but I wasn't obese. I wasn't like substantially overweight, but I felt that I was larger than I wanted to be. And why am I saying this? Oh, because when I look back at pictures of myself from that time, I wasn't even really heavy at all. Like I didn't even really look overweight. I was significantly heavier in high school and junior high. Those pictures, I am noticeably a large girl. I slimmed down a bit in college, possibly because I started working out more, but The first couple of years of college, I was definitely not on a low carb diet. I didn't know about low carb diets. I didn't know about ketogenic diets. We're talking 1996, 1997 time frame. And but looking at those pictures, I was so much slimmer, even though I wasn't on a low carb diet. In fact, I was on a relatively high carb diet. In college, I'm on a budget. There's limited food options, perhaps. I would get a bagel at least once a day. I mean, that was like my lunch every day, a bagel with strawberry cream cheese. I would drink what is one of my favorite things to this day that I have almost never. You're going to laugh at me, like the gas station type cappuccinos. Like if you're at a convenience store or gas station and it has like French vanilla, mocha, cappuccino, mint Oreo, whatever. And they're so thick and rich and creamy and sugary. So anyway, I used to love those. I probably drank at least one of those a day. Not a big one, a small one, but a thing of sugar. Lots and lots of bread, lots and lots of pasta, pretzels, because fat free. Bread, pasta, pretzels, rice, whatever. And it was cheap. But so how did I maintain such a lower weight? I think I had youth on my side. I was younger, even though I had been chubbier as a child, maybe at that time it was easier to lose weight and maintain a lower weight because I was younger. And looking back at when I was in college, I don't know how it is nowadays, and I don't know, it may depend on your campus layout. If you are at a school or if your child is at a school, if you're a parent of a college student, the school, if you're in a more urban setting versus a more rural setting, it depends on how much walking you're going to do. But I probably walked 3 or 4 miles a day without even trying. Just going from one class to the next, going to my job on campus. I had a work study job, going to band rehearsals, going to where I worked on the literary magazine, constantly walking. I mean, you were probably only sitting for at most like 2 hours at a time before class was over and you're going to the next thing, whatever that thing was. Plus, my last 2 years, junior and senior year, I lived in an apartment off campus. So I'm walking there and back, probably like at least twice a day. Like if I had a 3 hour break between class, I could go home, get something done. So lots and lots of walking built into the day. And I also can remember distinctly as I look back, I really didn't snack at all. There was breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but there wasn't like constant grazing throughout the day or I don't know what. So that's all I can say. At the time, I didn't need a ketogenic diet. I should not that I need it now, but you know what I mean. I was able to maintain a weight that I may not have been happy with then, but looking back, it was a perfectly fine weight, despite the fact that I was eating a lot more carbs. I was probably eating a lot less fat. I wasn't eating no fat, like I said, bagel with cream cheese, those little convenience store hot chocolatey coffee beverages are certainly not low in fat. So, that is what it is. I learned about the ketogenic diet, I think my sophomore year or maybe my junior year. I actually learned about it through a writing class. And I don't remember what the assignment was, but I chose to write about this really interesting diet I had learned about. And I learned about it from a book that probably no one's ever heard of. And the person who wrote it is very controversial, so I'm not going to mention his name, but it's not that well known. But it was many of the people in the ketogenic scene today, it was our first foray into this, like 1998 time frame. And I don't remember if the book was just recently published at that time or that's just when I found it. I think that book came out sometime in the mid to late 90s, so it was relatively new when I found it. But I was so fascinated, like, wow, this goes against everything I thought, and it's like high fat, you just don't eat carbs. And I wrote about it, and it was all cool. And it had stayed with me. I didn't do the diet at that time, but I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Senior year, I tried to do it. I'm getting way off field. Oh my God, it's almost 10 minutes in. I got to stop talking about myself. The point is, senior year, I tried to do keto. I didn't really have the gumption to do it. I didn't have the desire to make it my lifestyle. So I would do it for like a day. And then at my work study job, there was this lady who was a really good baker. And I think I worked there like 2 or 3 days a week. So I would go 1 or 2 days of doing keto. And then I'd get to the work and it was like, oh, there's fudge on the table. Oh, there's a cake. Oh, she made cookies. And it was all over. And again, at that time, I was of the mindset like, oh, I've had 2 cookies, the day is ruined, I'll just start again tomorrow. Which we know that that's not how it has to be. I could have started immediately after finishing the cookies. Hey, guess what? No more carbs. Moving on, if you are in college right now or you have a child who's in college, what if they want to do keto or low carb? The first question to ask is, do you or does your child need keto? And I mean keto, like if you have epilepsy, if you have some condition where you require ketosis, that's a different story. If you are just looking to lose some weight or looking to just maintain health or maybe regain health, if you have type 2 diabetes, if you have type 1 diabetes and you want to control your blood sugar a little better, if you have PCOS, if you have fatty liver, metabolic syndrome, gout, hypertension, migraines, all of these different things that we know carbohydrate restriction in one form or another is really good for, then how do we make it easier for you to follow a low carb or ketogenic diet while you're at school? When you're home for like holiday break or summertime or whatever, easier to do, right? So how are you going to do this on campus? Now, it's unfortunate that we even have to talk about this because all of those conditions that I just mentioned, and as always, I'm a nutritionist, not a doctor. This is not medical advice. But all of those conditions I just mentioned happen to like toddlers now, right? They happen to toddlers, they happen to teenagers, they happen to people of college age. It used to be that these things were like old people diseases, or like just older or very heavy even. Like we assume, oh, it's only heavy people that get diabetes or gout or whatever. And of course, we know that that is totally wrong. You can have all of these kinds of what we call cardiometabolic problems at any body weight. And I talk about that all the time. So the fact, can you have all these gnarly health problems when you're like 19 and should be in the prime of your life? Yeah, you sure can. So there might be a reason for you to do a rather strict low carb or ketogenic diet at college. How do we make that happen? So like I said, I didn't say this yet. It really depends on your living situation and your dining situation at your school. And I can really kind of only speak to my experience. And I was in college from 1996 to 2000. So 20-year reunion coming up. Insert head exploding emoji. So where was I? All I can really do is talk about how I remember it being. It might be very different now, although it's probably not all that different. So if you live off campus somewhere, if you have your own apartment, your own house that you're renting, whatever, you basically have zero problem doing this because I'll assume that you have a normal kitchen fully equipped with pots and pans, you have a stove, you have an oven, you have maybe a microwave, a fridge, a freezer, cabinet space, zero problem eating meat, poultry, seafood, eggs, low carb vegetables, very low carb fruits, nuts, cheese, dairy, whatever you like to include in your low carb or ketogenic diet. And it might be a matter of cooking in advance, cooking a lot of food at one time so that if I have like 4 classes today, I'm going to be on campus all day long. I'm leaving the house or the apartment at like 7 a.m. I won't be back until 6 p.m. Take food with you. Cook a lot, bring it with you, get an insulated little cooler lunch bag, or just stick it in your bag without the ice pack. I mention this frequently. Food does not go bad anywhere near as quickly as we think it does. Now, it might be a different story if we're talking about the dead of summer, a really, really hot day. There might be certain things that you don't want to keep out at room temperature. But for the most part, food really doesn't go bad. Just get a really tightly sealed bag or plastic container or whatever, like holding storage implement you want to use, toss your food in your bag and go to campus. And cooking in advance is not really anything different than I tell any of my other clients. People with busy lives, people with unpredictable schedules, why wouldn't you cook a large amount? Turn on the slow cooker, turn on your Instant Pot, whatever, turn on your regular, pots and pans. If you're grilling one steak, grill 5 steaks. Don't cook one chicken breast, cook 8 chicken breasts. Get your slow cooker, put like a 4 or 5 pound pork loin or beef roast or something in there. You can cut big chunks of it and eat it for days. Same thing with vegetables. Just cook up a massive pile. I mean, that to me should go without saying. I shouldn't have to say cook a lot and bring it with you. The other option you have is cooking at home and eating mostly at home, maybe bringing some with you, and buying something on campus. So most of let's talk about the other living situation and then get back to where they kind of intersect and merge. The other living situation, of course, is living in a dorm. Now, when I was in school back in the dark ages 2 decades ago, you could have a hot plate. It was called a hot plate back then. It's basically a burner. It was an electric burner or one of the kind of like, I don't think it's induction, whatever they call the surface that turns red. I don't even know what that's called, but like the flat cooktop. You could have any type of cooking implement like that as long as it didn't have an open flame. So some colleges, you might even be allowed to have a toaster oven. You might be allowed to have a slow cooker like a crock pot. You might be allowed to have an instant pot, or a pressure cooker. I shouldn't say instant pot. That's the brand. A pressure cooker is what I should say. Crock pot is the brand name for slow cooker. Anyway, if you can have these things, there's pretty much zero problem for you to cook low carb foods. Most dorms either provide you with a little cube fridge or like one of those small mini rectangle fridges, or when I was in school, they didn't come standard with the dorm rooms, but almost everyone bought one. You could get one cheap off of, or I don't even remember if Craigslist existed back then. The college had like its own internal sort of online yard sale. So you could buy one really cheap. And again, if you have a fridge, and most of those little fridges come with a little freezer section. It usually doesn't work so well, but it's there. If you have a little fridge and you have some type of heating implement, and I'm not really talking about microwaves because I don't like to cook in microwaves. Not because I'm afraid of them safety-wise. I don't really think that's an issue at all. I just think they make food taste bad. It cooks very unevenly. Some parts are frozen, some parts are like overcooked. I don't like to, I'll occasionally reheat in a microwave. I don't like to cook in a microwave, but like, I'm not afraid of like the waves are killing my brain or whatever. I'm not afraid of that aspect. If you have a hot plate with a little burner or a slow cooker, a pressure cooker, what have you, zero obstacles to you cooking and eating low carb just like anyone else at home. You might not have as much storage space, so you might have to go to the store more often depending on what you're buying, but all right, big deal. Now, if you're living on campus, but even if you're not, you might have a dining plan. Most universities, again, at least back in the dark ages, had a dining plan or a meal plan where you paid in advance at the beginning of the semester for either a certain number of meals per week or per month, or you could load it up with your like campus dollars, your university funds, whatever it was called. You could just keep adding money to it and it never expired. It wasn't good for only a certain number of meals. It was just you had that much money to use up. So if you're at a dining hall, all you really have to do is do the best you can. Make the best choices you can within what's available to you. And you are just never ever going to convince me that there is a dining hall where, and I have to remember to say dining hall and not chow hall, I'm not talking about the military anymore. Those of you who want to know how to stay keto in the military, watch my video I did on keto in the military. I'll put a link to it. But you just have to make the best choices available. And I can't imagine that there is a dining hall on a campus that doesn't have some kind of protein and vegetable. It could be just a plain grilled chicken breast. It could be a burger patty. It could be, I don't even know what, a pork chop. It could be, sometimes I'll have like a taco bar, a taco station where they'll have grilled, just ground beef with some spices on it, or like fajita meat. So like kind of strips of grilled chicken or grilled steak or something. Your dining hall probably has a nice seafood option a couple times a week, a piece of salmon, a piece of cod, flounder, some kind of fish that is not drowning in some kind of sugary sauce. Most seafood is cooked with like a buttery, creamy sauce anyway, that's probably not very carby. Sometimes they'll probably have steak, but like I said, you can probably find a piece of chicken. There might be, again, depending on your school, depending on what the situation is, you might be lucky enough to have a really good salad bar at your disposal, where there also could be things like chopped ham, hard-boiled eggs, there could be tuna, there could be, again, chopped up or grilled strips of chicken, crumbled bacon, so there could be blue cheese crumbles, lettuce, peppers, olives, cucumbers, radishes, whatever other kinds of vegetables might be there. Totally low-carb friendly. So I would be willing to bet that you have choices available. Your choices might be limited, but you can eat low carb. You might not be able to eat super, super strict keto, but most of you, or most of your children who are college age, probably don't need super strict, like medically therapeutic epilepsy type keto. Most of you can probably do really well just low carb to very low carb. So that might mean getting whatever main meat entree is available with a low carb vegetable. They might have some steamed broccoli, asparagus, a stir fry of vegetables, and dealing with whatever minimal amount of carbohydrate will be in there, because you're still doing better if you just eschew, I love that word, ESCHEW, eschew, i.e. avoid the rice, the potatoes, the bread, the pasta, whatever other starchy or grain side dishes are available. So if you, just by doing that, you're going to be eating way lower carb than most of your friends are probably eating. What else? Beverages, hello, water, coffee, tea, diet soda. Yes, diet soda. Keto without the crazy. I don't fearmonger about the artificial sweeteners. I use them myself. I've been using them for like 30 years now. And let me think of what other issues might be at a dining hall. And that's really all there is. You might even have the ability, depending on the rules and regulations of your dining hall, you might be able to take a to-go container. Most dining halls are sort of all you can eat, unlimited. That's why we all gain so damn much weight freshman year, but there's also the pizza and beer too. Maybe not beer because you're not 21 like you need to be in the US. But if you might be able to go in and get your lunch, get your dinner, eat, and then before you leave, get a little container and load up on the hard-boiled eggs, the crumbled bacon, the blue cheese crumbles, get an extra chicken breast or two. And if you do need to be more keto-ish than just kind of low-ish carb, if you really need to be very low carb, get the chicken breast, get a bunch of cheese from that salad bar. They probably have shredded cheddar or like mozzarella balls or something. They probably have olive oil that you can just pour on. And I always say keto is not about adding the fat, it's about not eating the carbs. But if there's not many other good fat sources there that you trust, they probably have butter, they probably have lots of margarine too, but there's probably some butter packets there that you can just take a big handful of butter and leave. I'm not that worried about adulteration of olive oil in a situation like that, right? If you're trying to do a low-carb or ketogenic diet, you're probably better off using whatever olive oil they're saying is olive oil and just not worrying about it than you are eating rice and eating bread and pasta and potatoes, right? So you just have to do the best you can within the options that are available to you. A lot of dining halls, probably for breakfast, if you get up early enough to get breakfast there, I know Lord knows I never did, they no doubt have a lot of egg options. They probably have a huge tray of scrambled eggs that you can just take a big old spoon and put it on your plate. They probably have bacon, sausages. They probably have cheese, in addition to the cereal and the fruit and the sugary yogurts and the pastries and the donuts that you can ignore. They probably have all of this wonderful low carb food. Some dining halls will actually have an omelet station with like actual humans cooking actual eggs in front of you, and you get to pick and choose. You say, I'll take the eggs, and I would like the green peppers and the onions and the ham and the mushrooms, and they will cook you an omelet made to order. And in some of these circumstances, they're using like powdered eggs or egg substitute. You can usually ask for real eggs. You can say, hey, can you please make mine with real eggs? And they will, if you want to be picky about it. Powdered eggs are actually from real eggs. God knows the process they go through to dry them into powder, but those are from eggs. They're not like egg substitute, they're just powdered eggs. But why not just ask for real eggs? If you're paying for it anyway, or you've already paid for it, or your parents have already paid for it, why not just say, hey, can you make mine with real eggs? They will not have a problem doing that. Now, other options on campus, pretty much every college I've been to or have visited, besides the one that I went to, have other dining options. There's the dining hall or halls, there might be multiple depending on how big your campus is, have other little like food trucks or stands or little like stores that you can get food at, basically restaurants that are on campus, and they take those dining dollars or your campus funds or whatever you call it. So again, what are the best choices you can make? You would order the same way you would order at any other restaurant if you weren't in college or you were just doing keto, whatever. Bunless burger with a side of vegetables. If you want a side of vegetables, you don't have to get one. And pro tip, the people that do the carnivore diet, a big tip they give us is that if you go to a fast food joint or any other kind of restaurant and you want a burger without the bun, if you want all the fixings on the burger, if they have like a special blah blah burger and it comes with these 8 things on it, and you want the 8 things, you just don't want the bun, you would order that burger and just say no bun. But if you just want burger patties, if you just want like 2 or 3 burger patties to fill up on protein and fat and go on your way, ask for plain burger patties. They're usually much cheaper because you're not actually paying for the burger. All you want is the meat. So that's an option. Grilled chicken sandwich, no bun. Fajitas, no tortillas, no rice. So many food trucks have come such a long way. We had the most awesome Chinese food truck where I went to college. Again, no rice. Get beef and broccoli, chicken with broccoli, steamed shrimp and vegetables. Now, at a food truck, your options are more limited, but this really, to me, this is common sense. It's common sense. Now, before I end, because it's 27 minutes and I can't believe I've been talking about stuff that should be completely obvious and common sense for 27 minutes, but the difficulty that I see is peer pressure because your friends think you're a weirdo, or your friends, you're seeing your friends eat pizza, eat donuts, eat cake, eat whatever. But that's really no different than anyone else in the real world outside of college. We all have coworkers, maybe we have family members that are not doing low carb or keto, and they eat whatever they eat. I'm lucky I live alone, so my food is my food and there's no one else's food here. But and my Duke boyfriend eats keto. You all know my Duke man, he does eat keto. So where was I? What was I saying? The difficulty, right? The peer pressure. If you know that you feel best, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, cognitively, you just feel best eating low carb, then who gives a giant hoot what all your friends are eating? You feel best. Maybe you even look your best. Maybe some of them, and I don't wish this on them, but maybe some of them are struggling with obesity or migraine headaches or hypertension or metabolic syndrome or, anxiety or whatever, diabetes, all these things that we know low carb is really good for. And they might not be willing at this time to change their diet to what you're doing. That's okay. What they are eating does not have to affect what you are eating on any level. My friend Casey Durango, CaseyDurango.com, Go Keto with Casey, she's awesome. She says no one gets a vote on what you eat. So if they're talking about you or like belittling you or kind of poking fun at your choices, you can just react in whatever way is most suitable to you. You can ignore, you can laugh at them and move on, you can fight back hard, you can get angry in return, you can make fun of what they're doing. I would ignore. It has zero bearing. What anyone else is eating has zero bearing on what you're eating. And what anyone else thinks of what you're eating has zero bearing on what you eat. You are the only person who gets a vote on what you eat. I mean, isn't that great? Like, you're away at college, you're an adult now, you get to make your own choices. Finally, don't let your friends control your choices. Like, now your parents no longer control your choices. Don't let your stupid friends who want to scare you away from keto or who want to be vegan and they're pissed off because you're eating so much bacon and red meat. Too darn bad. They don't get a vote, but you also don't get a vote on what they eat. So I would say if you want them to be respectful of your choices and what you eat and just not comment, just eat together like humans in fellowship and community and harmony, then you should probably not really comment on what anyone else eats. Now, what else can I say before I end? It's almost 31 minutes. That was the difficulty. I mean, and the peer pressure, right? The commenting and the sort of poking fun at and the maybe even ridiculing your diet is different from just you being at a party and there's pizza and there's beer and there's, breadsticks and wings and all this stuff. That's hard. And I don't know how to tell you to manage that except that, like I said, if you know that you feel your best and you look your best and you think your best and your mood is the most even when you avoid the carbs, then you know that you need to avoid the carbs even if everyone around you is eating them and even if they smell friggin' delicious. So, the way to avoid that, I'm not going to tell you not to go to parties. You should absolutely go to parties. I miss college, man. Freshman year sucked because I happened to be in a dorm where there was like nobody that wasn't a giant bitch except my roommate. I did luck out with my roommate. To this day, we are dear friends. I was a bridesmaid at her wedding. Her name is Heather. I sometimes joke around that I want to be Heather when I grow up. Like when I grow up, I want to be her. She's amazing. Anywho, and there was one other dear friend that I met about a couple of months into the semester who lived on the floor below me. Other than that, not a good freshman year friend-wise. Sophomore year, I moved to a different dorm, whole new world, whole different social scene. College was like, woohoo, this is how it's supposed to be. Even for a giant nerd like me that spent almost all my time studying, I did find a little bit of time to have fun. So do have fun, go to your parties, enjoy the hell out of that time because you will miss it when it's gone. And you could bring food with you. It might be difficult, especially if you're a girl and like you got a dress that's got no pockets. Where are you going to put food? Even if you're a guy, you're wearing jeans, where are you going to put your steak? Where are you going to put your burger patty? So, it might be hard. You could try to eat before you go, pre-game with food so you're not hungry when you arrive, or let yourself be hungry. It's not that big a deal to be hungry for an extra hour or two and eat when you go home. So that's about it. Let me just stop and think a minute to see if I've forgotten anything. I mean, really, it is common sense, right? Don't eat the carbs. How do you stay keto in college? Just like you stay keto everywhere else. You make the best choices you can with what's available to you. Cook a lot in advance. Bring food with you. Don't be a zealot if there's a piece of meat available, and God forbid, maybe it's not grass-fed, it's probably not. Maybe it's not organic, it's probably not. Maybe it's canola oil. Oh, okay, all right. Is it low carb? First question, is it low carb? Great. Next question is whatever you want the next question to be. So that's it. And again, you're young, you're probably healthy. If you're dealing with one of these sort of more severe and serious medical conditions that you really want to manage or improve with keto, that's a little bit of a different story. If you're mostly already active, fit, lean, or close to lean, You really don't need to be that strict. You could probably be keto most of the time, and a couple of times a month have the piece of pizza, have the regular beer, not the light beer, have the sweet potato fries, you know? And if that shocks you, brace yourself, because I'm actually co-writing a book with somebody that should be out later this year. Not my fat loss stall book, but like a real book that's going to be on store shelves. It's going to be a print copy. It's not going to be out till much, much later in the year, probably not till like October at the earliest, maybe later. But that book is going to be about how to find your personal sort of carbohydrate threshold level, because not everybody needs keto, and maybe you don't. Maybe you do really, really well eating low carb for the most part, but every now and then you can have a bagel. Every now and then you can have a scone. You can have that super thick, creamy, sugary convenience store latte cappuccino. They're not, none of us became obese or diabetic or got PCOS or had fatty liver because of having those things once a month. We got this way because of having those things every day, and some of us multiple times a day. It's not the blip here and there on the radar. It's not the one time, oh, my blood sugar's through the roof because I just ate a X item. It's when we do that all day, every day, up on that blood sugar, skyrocket. So I hope that makes sense. Like, just to clarify, because I've seen some distinct lack of nuanced and critical thinking on Twitter, and it's actually alarming, the lack of critical thinking that I see on social media right now. But just to clarify, I'm not saying eat a ton of starch. I'm saying know yourself, know your limits, know your own sort of carb tolerance. Maybe you need strict keto, maybe just low-ish, kind of watching the carbs is enough for you. Maybe you don't need any carb restriction. You might be somewhere on this spectrum, and you should not feel guilty. Don't feel ashamed. Don't feel scared or worried if every now and then you have some carbs. I might have some carbs every now and then. Nobody's kicked me out of the club yet. And I think I'm going to stop talking now. If you have any specific questions about maintaining a low carb or ketogenic diet at college that I did not address, or like if there's something huge that I'm totally forgetting, then remind me, leave me a comment. I'm going to try to be looking at the comments more than I used to. I really do want to interact with you more. I want you to know that I'm listening. I care. I care that you watch. I care that you enjoy these videos. I care that you're getting value out of them. And the directions are all reversed. So like I turn this and it goes the opposite way on the camera. But anyway, go Blue Devils. So one more tip before I go. Depending on the storage space you have available in your dorm room or your off-campus apartment, whatever your situation may be, I don't know how things are outside the US and Canada, but I know in the US and Canada we have these like big box warehouse stores. Stock up on your non-perishables that you can store under your bed, store on top of the closet, wherever they can go. Your canned salmon, tuna, sardines, mackerel, maybe even canned chicken, beef jerky that's low to no sugar. Yes, you can find the stuff. Nuts. Now nuts, you don't want to leave them around too long. They can turn rancid, or you can keep them in the fridge. What else is non-perishable that you can find at those places? I don't know. Whatever works. It's funny because I'm remembering that I used to go to the warehouse store when I was home for like Christmas break, and we would drive back to school. But back then, pre-low carb, I would get like the ginormous rectangle of cereal. The Honey Bunches of Oats with almonds was my favorite. Like Honey Nut Cheerios, I also like these huge boxes of cereal and whatever else I would get that was starchy. I'm trying to think of what else I would get at a warehouse store now that's non-perishable. I mean, if you have a big fridge, you can just get whatever you want and put it in there. But I don't know. They do sell fully cooked bacon that you don't have to refrigerate until it's open. I don't know how long that lasts. I don't know how long it's shelf stable, but probably a while. They vacuum seal it. Maybe you can get some condiments, canned vegetables if you want to do like canned green beans and stuff. I'm not a huge fan of canned vegetables, but that's it. You just do the best you can. And I've only said that like a million times, so I'm going to stop now. And good luck in school. Enjoy these years. They fly by. Like I said, you will miss them when they're gone. They may not be your glory days, but they should be somewhat glorious. And that's it. Again, I mean it. If there's something huge that I'm forgetting, because I feel like there is, or you have a question, either leave it down there or just send me an email to nutrition@gmail.com, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.